I'm doing
How you
well. Great
doing?
minds think alike. We're both wearing green. How are you?
I saw that. I was like, man, look at that. We both got
How
green
are
on.
you
I ain't
doing?
mad at it. Doing great. Can't complain. It's been a busy day, but we're
Yeah.
getting through it, so I ain't mad at it. How's yours day?
My day was I had a I had a day. I had a day. I had a
Man,
day.
take a deep breath,
But
man.
we are here and it's all God is just that's the thing. That's the
Nah, I
best
feel
way
you.
I could say it. God is a funny guy.
Hey, I mean, but we gotta have days like that, right? It makes us appreciate the good days, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Thank you for being
right.
here with us. It's you bringing all the folks. Oh my
Hey, we knew that was
gosh.
gonna happen.
Before we get started, do you mind if I open us in prayer? Okay, Father
Oh,
God, we
please,
come to you right
please.
now, inviting your Holy Spirit into this conversation. In the name of Jesus, I ask that this conversation will glorify your kingdom and that the ears that are listening, either now or later, will be blessed. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Chris,
Amen.
tell us who you are. Introduce yourself.
What's up? What's up? Yeah, so quick little elevator pitch. My name is Christopher King, from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a attorney, artist, a painter, actor, model, football coach, trainer. I do a whole bunch of different things, right? But most importantly, I'm a Christ ambassador, right? So I'm just trying to, glorify His name and trying to do and become everything that God has
That's
kind of created me to do on this earth.
really incredible that you say that actually. Earlier today, first of all, you do all the things, okay? Let's just say that. You do.
All right. But sing, I can't
Well,
sing,
God couldn't
unfortunately.
bless you with
But
everything, Chris. He got
I know, I know, I
blessings for
know, I
somebody
know.
else
It would have been
now.
nice though. You're
But
right. You're right.
today I was actually thinking about that, about, just all of the gifts and talents that God gives to us, like how we really should just use them and not sit on them. When the opportunity presents itself to use those things, especially when it's like, it's either helping someone or making somebody else feel better or lifting someone's day. It's so
You're right.
you're blessed.
Hey, I mean, He gives us gifts to kind of pour into other people. So, I mean, we got to do it. If we don't use it like that, I mean, even if you do make a lot of money, you wasting
Absolutely.
it,
I 100% agree that basically like our lives we're never intended to just be self-led, or just like self. Always been
Oh,
it's always supposed to be about somebody
right.
else. Um, yeah, so
Always.
let's get into this conversation tonight. I think that very
Let's
timely
dive into it.
thing, because I think that we can all relate, and I think at a time now where everything is so fast paced and we trying to all like get to the next thing, or we trying to like in all the ways, it's hard for us to wait these days,
Yeah.
and so tonight our Working Wednesday is on the topic of waiting. And firstly, I just want to like ask you, like, what's the first thing, like what is the first response that comes to your mind or to your body when you hear the word wait? Like how do you respond to that word?
Honestly, if I'm being honest, frustrating. A process. It can be exhausted. Can be exhausting sometimes. But I think one word that really comes to mind is just purposeful, right? I know if anybody's out there waiting for anything, right? You're waiting for a purpose, right? You're not just waiting, killing time, twiddling your thumbs, right? It's always, every time God has us to wait for something, a promise, a vision, a dream, whatever, a person, whatever it may be, it's for a reason. right? So like throughout my life and my process of waiting and going through those waiting seasons, he has kind of taught me to look at it through like a different perspective, right? I'm big on football, I'm big on fitness and stuff, so I kind of always look at it as training, right? So waiting, I just look at it as training because you're training, you're preparing, you're getting ready, right? So I try to change that perspective of waiting and just say, all right, we in them training seasons, right? We in training camp, right? We getting that work in. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
I like that. Whenever I hear the word wait, I'm just like, like if I can explain it, waiting is really not easy, especially when you're waiting on something like, you know, you have those things where you like, I really want to do this thing, or I really want this thing to happen, or like in any area of our lives. I really like, you know, when I was younger, I used to have this idea of where my life would be by this time, right? And so it's even like waiting on those things too kind of feels like sometimes, like you said, it is very frustrating, but there's so much that is developed within that time of waiting, and that's the beautiful part about it. So as far as you are concerned, what has been like the biggest weight from God for you?
Yeah, I could probably say, you know, the easiest one, right? To say, oh, waiting to get married, you know, waiting to jump in that relationship because I'm almost 30 now. So that has definitely been a waiting process. But honestly, that doesn't even like come to mind at first. Honestly, it would probably be like waiting for like the visions and the dreams and the things God has kind of put in me, in my heart, in my mind, in my sight. Because God kind of speaks to me a lot through visions as well. So like I'll get that picture, like, and it'll be clear as day, right? But he don't tell me when, he don't tell me how, he don't tell me none of those different things, right? So like that waiting process, I'm like, man, like we not even, like at least, you know, waiting is easy when you can kind of, it's easier, let me say that, when you can kind of see the steps, right? And it makes sense, right? Okay, I go here. Okay, now I'm closer. Now I get here. Now I'm closer. Now it kind of makes sense. So it's a little easier, right? Man, it's hard when, to be honest, it either seems like you standing still or you going backwards. And it's like, bro, like I swore you gave this to me. Like I prayed, I fasted, this happened. You gave me confirmation. Like, what's up? And then now it seems like things are going the other way, right? So that's a really tough process to kind of go through. And my biggest waiting moments that I'm still waiting on, if I'm being honest, is like seeing those visions, seeing those things, those promises, those dreams, those assignments that he's given me, right? To see those things come to pass or start coming into start to materialize. It's been tough. It's been like years.
So let me ask you this: how are you able to differentiate between what is your plan and your vision versus what an assignment is from God?
Yeah. Oh, he taught me that lesson hard. And my boy Byron, you know, Byron could definitely co-sign this, man. Like going to the NFL was definitely a vision I had. And I was like, man, God, this is gonna be it, right? Like I'm gonna come from a small school, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be like the Black Tim Tebow, I'm gonna do this, live on faith, touch so many people, I'm gonna do all these things, right? And I was like, okay, this is exactly what you're telling me. Like everything's lining up. I'm making these sacrifices, I'm doing this, I'm putting in the work, all these things. And like it didn't happen, right? Like not even close, if I'm being I'm gonna say that, but just not where I would have saw it to be at, right? And it was tough. It was really tough, right? It was tough for a couple reasons. It was tough dreaming again, right? And I'm not talking about things you can work and make happen. I mean, to those things, it's like only God got to do. It was hard even dreaming for that again, right? Because you was like, man, I don't want to go through this again, right? It kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth to even hope for those kind of crazy things, for that crazy faith. so to speak. So that was hard. And then like to like, because the next move he had me kind of coaching and training young athletes, and it was like, bro, I'm seeing these young kids and they getting this and offer here and going here and doing all this, and they not even, if I'm being honest, they not even working, and it's just happening. I'm like, bro, this is like, so he had to work on my pride with that. So it was just that, going through that experience definitely taught me like, okay, that goal, that focus was good in the time, but it wasn't to achieve that thing. It was to learn the lessons, the work ethic, to meet the right people. It was for the journey. It wasn't for the goal of getting to the NFL. It was about developing in that process of trying to get to the NFL, but learning all those skills that now is going to be able to use in the season I'm in now and all the other seasons that's to come, right? So you really gotta, it's really hard. I'm gonna be honest. It's hard to kind of determine what's coming from God and what's coming from you. And you really have to kind of examine it, right? You got to examine it, not just saying, okay, is this something I want? You got to say why you want it. You know what I mean? Like what's the purpose? And you got to be 100% honest with yourself. Are you doing it for the girls? Are you doing it for the clothes? Are you doing it for the fame? Are you doing it for the money? Are you doing it because you even love to do it, right? Because a lot of times we can say, oh, this is what I love to do and I feel like God has created me to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean this is going to be in the capacity you're going to do it in, right? Like, I love, you know, I would love to have been in the NFL, but who knows? Maybe he needs me training people or owning or you know, have a different type of connection to the NFL versus saying, okay, you're just going to be a player. Sometimes we can have this, I guess, limited vision of what's it going to be like, but he's like, nah, you're going to be connected to it, but just not in the way you think.
Chris, that is so good. Because ain't it just like God to, even when we are like, I'm going to do this my way, still along the way, and we have our own minds, our own vision, our own plans, still along that journey, he's like, I'm going to still reach you and teach you in this place. I'm going to still, even though where you think you're going is not where you're going, it's only by this process that I'm going to be able to cultivate these things in you. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I 100% I love that you said, maybe like, because you're still attached to football. So your dream, your vision was to go to the NFL, but you're still attached to football. So it's like, and then God will give us glimpses of like the area that he'll have us in, or that we're supposed to be purposeful in, but our vision at that time, because it's not necessarily submitted to God, it's submitted to our own will and our own desires, our vision is not seen clearly until we get in alignment with God, and we're like, okay, what you want, what do you want me to do? And the answer is yes. Wherever you want me to go, the answer is yes. I had to start living my life with that blind faith of, God, whatever you're doing, I mean, like, where you want me to go, yes. Before I even know, the answer is yes. What you want me to do, the answer is yes. No matter what I have preconceived in my mind, like, the answer is yes. And funny enough, stuff started getting crazy.
Yep, it be like that. It like once you, it's so crazy how it works, right? Once you like say, all right, yes, God, he gonna be like, all right, you say it, but we gonna see if you really about that life, right? So he gonna be like, all right, well, it's time to say yes to some things, right? And I'm gonna keep it a buck. Even like going like to law school and doing the whole law thing, man, I didn't want to do it. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I just didn't. I know it always sounds good on paper, law school, you're gonna be an attorney, your dad's an attorney, your family and all that stuff. I was like, all right, that's cool, but like, I don't want to do it. Like, I just don't, right? Like, there's nothing appealing about it to me, right? But that's what he told me to do. He's like, all right, I need you to do this. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it, right? I'm gonna do it, right? And even there's been so many times, you know, I'm on the back end out of it, but there were so many times I'd be in, you know, at Southern, right? In the classes, And, you know, they got people raising their hand like, oh, I know this is this, or that's that, and all into it, right? And I'm like, bro, why am I even here? Like, it just wasn't, it wasn't like, especially after you coming from feeling how football made you feel, right? And you just like in it, and you could do it 3 times a day, you could do it all day, and you could just talk about it, you can learn about it, and it was just so fulfilling. And then going to do something that like God is telling you to do, but you don't really have like the passion or the desire for, it's really kind of wrestling with that, right? And I've learned, you know, when God tells you to do something, right, and is requesting your obedience, it doesn't matter what you feeling. It don't matter how you feel. Like your feelings don't matter. And we can look at through everybody in the Bible, from Jonah to David to especially Jesus, right? Your feelings don't matter, right? Like you can feel not like doing something, you can feel like doing it. At the end of the day, God still needs.
I was just listening to this song before we got on. I think it's called "Spirit Lead Me," and in that song it says, like, I'm done with my feeling, like I'm done letting my, it says all of these things, like I'm done doing these things. And one of those things is feelings, and I think that for me personally, feelings have, if I'm being honest, like feelings have led me tremendously. And I think, you know, I don't think that I'm the only person that feelings have led, but it's like a relinquishing of that, to just kind of like allow God to do and be who God is. Because you're right, like our feelings don't matter. Like they don't.
It's weird because like they don't matter. Like, you know, Jesus is a comforter, right? He's gonna comfort you. He's gonna, you know, acknowledge your feelings. But at the end of the day, it's like, nah, bro, it's still gotta get done. So like, they matter, but then they don't matter. Like,
but there's purpose in, like, our feelings, the feelings that be attached are like just those feelings of like, well, this is what I want to do, or this is how I see it happening. But God's obedience requires paths and avenues that lots of times we've not even considered, because those are the less desired paths, you know, and the less, like, that's not the way that you always want to go. I mean, if we're not careful, our flesh will lead, and we all know this. And so when you're not submitted, then those feelings are coming from what your flesh is feeling, like, versus when you're submitted and it's like, you know what, God, okay, all right.
That's why I hate when people say like, oh, I'm just gonna follow my heart. Like, man, like, I know that sounds good, it's all warming and stuff. Man, that's almost the worst thing you can possibly do, right? Because just because you feel like doing something or want to do something or have a strong desire to do something, that doesn't mean that's what God's calling you to do. Like, if I'm keeping it honest, right? I would love to have sex, right? I would love to do it. I'm a man, right? I would love to have sex. But just because I'm feeling like doing this or wanting to do this, that doesn't change the fact that he called me to walk this path out, right? And in that assignment that he's kind of given me. So either I can say, you know what? I can do what I want to do, right? For this desire, for this want, for whatever it is, and forfeit or prolong. You could, you know, that's the crazy part. You don't know which one he's going to do. You could forfeit it or prolong it, right? Or you can suck it up, thug it out, and do what he's calling you to do. And then hindsight, you're gonna be like, dang, that's why. That made so much sense, right? So you really got to be careful.
So when you are waiting, because I saw someone say that they are waiting on God for a lot right now, and it's real, and they're staying busy. When you're waiting, what do? Like, when God is silent, when you're not hearing anything, when you're not seeing anything, when it's like the math ain't mathing, and you just kind of like, you know, that silent place.
Right. Couple things I do, right? One, I get to work, right? You got to get to work. If you just sitting there idle, if I'm being honest, you end up doing something you ain't supposed to be doing, right? So you got to get to work, right? So that's why when I listed all those things about painting and doing all. Okay, I'm waiting, but I'm working while I'm waiting, right? I'm learning, I'm sharpening my skills, I'm finding that, I'm learning how to be excellent in the things that he has gifted and blessed me with, right? Because like I said, I look at it as training, right? If you waiting for that big game, right? That Super Bowl, right? But if you ain't been working, if you think you just gonna get there and all of a sudden play your best game that you've ever had, it ain't gonna work that way, right? Like you gotta work when I call it the silent season. You gotta work when nobody understands, when nobody's cheering you on, when you ain't got no name. When you're doing all this, that's when you gotta work. That's when you gotta do these reps again and again and again and again and again. So when that time comes and the big break comes, right? You can when you get to the point where you can audition for Creed 3 or Creed 4, right? It ain't gonna come just because you was there. It's gonna come because of everything you learned, you've grown, you tweaked, you changed, you elevated in. It's gonna come because of all that time you put in, right? And people gonna just see this and be like, oh man, he blowing up now. They don't see the silent season, right? So when we're waiting, right? You gotta put in that work, right? And then two, I kind of put these together. I would say obviously get in touch with God. You and him gotta be here, right? Because if not, you're gonna go crazy. But also with that, you gotta serve. Right, you gotta start serving, and that's gonna make it. That's gonna make it so much easier, right? Because when you start serving and pouring into young kids and pouring into this and pouring into all these other people, right? It's gonna take the focus off of you and what you don't have and where you should be or where you thought you was gonna be, because now you're focusing on like building somebody else up, right? Like you're pouring, hey, whatever you need, man, let's do it, or let's get back. Man, if you really want to like get to your next level, and not just on like a sense of like getting there, but also like developing who you need to become to get there, man, start serving and building somebody else's dream up, right? Start really pouring into other people mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, emotionally, and you're gonna become the person you need to be to handle that next level whenever God promotes you to that.
Yes, you preaching, brother.
Hey, I'm just saying the lessons he taught me. Okay, now hold on now, because you can't let this be lopsided. You got to tell me like what you been waiting on, like what you been like. Come on, you got to give me something.
So for me, I've been waiting on a lot. I have been. First, I'm gonna start by saying I have been challenging myself to be as transparent as possible in my Working Wednesday, so I'm going to do that. I am waiting for several things in different areas of my life. One of the things, the biggest thing is I'm waiting to hear from God, and I think that I am hearing from God on this. I think that he's showing me all the aspects and components of it, but I'm waiting to hear from God what exactly, like where exactly, where is he planting me, like where do you want me to be planted? That's the biggest thing that I'm waiting on right now. But I feel in sense that I'm being shown. And when I pray about it, I receive peace in my spirit about it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always easy to just be like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna just like, but wait. But I have a sense of peace in my spirit about it. Another thing that I'm waiting on is, so I'm an actress, whatever, this whole gender thing. Hold on.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I don't mind being called an actor. I'm gonna say that. And I have been in entertainment since I was 7. At first, it started as something that was just fun for me and something that I just loved. I saw myself on TV and I was like, oh my God, I want to see myself on TV forever now. Like, this is fun. But then the older I got and the more I evolved in my faith, I started realizing that God planted me here for sure, because I would try, like, I've tried so many things, and my friends, they laugh at me because they be like, girl, you done had 1,000 jobs. And I'm like, what y'all want me to do? Like, but I have tried so many things, and the one thing that has always drawn me back, even when I've been like, you know what, I'm quitting. Like, I've like called my mom and been like, God himself he's gonna have to pull me back to it. And it happened several times. And so, but I started realizing more than just like the byproduct of success that will come. It's more so about the industry that God needs to be present in, and God has to trust his people. He has to trust to place his people in these industries where he's needed. And so I believe that. So I'm waiting to see what we're about to co-partner and do, you know, like God and I, because I'm like, it must be I think it's gonna be something like incredible.
I know it will. I know it will. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, it's so funny because he's like, I have people that I know that's going into those different spheres of influence, and entertainment being the one of them, right? And I'm a firm believer, like, just from watching their stories and seeing them, including you, if I'm being honest, like, I feel like he's training us so that when we do get in that arena, that when that sphere, we can go through culture and still come out burning on the other side, right? Because there's been and you know this, especially being in this industry, there's so many people that have gone through the fire of culture and just burnt out, right? They lose their way, they compromise, they fall off, they start wilding out, just they go left, right? So I think he's definitely training up our people around my age and stuff, men and women, if I'm being honest, to be able to go in culture and affect change, right? And make it, and if I'm being honest, making it look so good too, to where they can be like, man, I want to be like that. Like, yeah, they're killing it on screen, but look at the person they are, right? Like, look at the things they've learned. Look at how they speak. Look at how they pour into other people. Like, all these different things. It's like, nah, this is getting dangerous, right? Because at the end of the day, I always say it like this: we going to take territory, right? And I'd be dang if the devil just running the whole sports industry or the entertainment industry or the whole. No, we ain't doing that. We're going to take territory. Now, with going to take territory, you better be trained.
I'm glad you said that, though, because as you were talking, one of the things that I was thinking about, just from my own personal experience, and we have people trying to join in on the calls and questions and all that. We'll get to all of that. I don't even know how to add people in and all that. I don't know how to do all that. I'm old school.
Come on, you gotta know how to do
that. No, but one of the things that I was gonna say is that when God is placing, that does not mean that the devil's going to be absent, right? So though I know that this is the industry that I've been, that this is an aspect of what God is doing with me and putting me in this industry, at the same time, just last week I had to turn down 2 major auditions, but compromised everything that I stand for. And so it's like that. And so when we talk about those tests, like testing, what are you asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? It's like, if I'm doing it for the outcome of fame or clout or all of these things, I'm vulnerable to compromise. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so on the note of like training in that time where, you know, things are silent or you're waiting, all of that type of stuff is what's being cultivated in that time. So when these things do come, you look at it and it's just like, what? No, this is a pass off. It's not even a thought. You know what I mean? And that's applicable to anything in life, not just with scripts, but anything. Like you walk into a room or a place. Yeah, we are gonna move through culture, and we are going to be impactful through culture, but everywhere. And I say this to myself and to people all the time. When Jesus was on his voyage, he was here on earth. He just kept going. He just kept going. Like he may stay, he may stop, he may rest in a place for a couple of days to rest or to do what he needed to do in that place. But he kept going. People who didn't believe who he was, he spoke his truth. He kept going. Like, and that's how we have to live. Like, it's like we're gonna walk into rooms, we're gonna walk into spaces, we're gonna walk into, well, maybe not you because you're not doing a relationship thing, but we may walk into relationships where it's like, you know, you're there and then you just realize like I have to keep going, because if I stay here, what God is doing for me and in me and with me, not for me, but for all of these people around me, I can't stay. I have to keep going. And so I tell people and myself all the time, I think that that's the best way to reflect Christ when we are like living and we're going through situations, or we feel like, oh, you know what, maybe I need to sit. I used to feel like even like in friendships, just in general, people, I used to feel like sometimes people were my assignment, but people are not. There are people that God puts in your path that you have to speak life to, like them specifically, but we just have to kind of keep walking. And that's with opportunities that present themselves, that's with friendships that no longer, you know, are aligned, all the things, you know.
I say it all the time, and I think it's just hard for people to kind of get until, you know, it's time to get the lesson. But everything is seasonal. Everything. And I know that sounds very, I guess, blunt or bad sometimes, but like every relationship, whether it's romantic, mentorship, menteeship, father, whatever it is, it's seasonal. Now, that season may last 6 months, it may last 6 years, it may last 60 years, right? But everything is seasonal. So when you're in that season, right, and you are blessed with that opportunity, man, learn, grow, pour into, cultivate, do everything you need to do in that season, because when that season's over, okay, well, it's time to keep moving, right? And I hate to say it, but that's even in like romantic relationships a lot of times, right? A lot of times, you know, you may meet somebody or even date somebody to where it's like, all right, you know, you may even have, okay, I'm gonna marry this person, right? But God's like, nah, not quite. You're gonna have to learn. They're gonna pull some things out of you. They're gonna teach you some things about yourself. There's certain things that I still gotta get out of you, right? Whether it's good or bad stuff, right? You got to learn that in that season. So when it's over, okay, well, now I got to get better, get ready or whatever for that next relationship or for that next person, right? I hate when people say, oh man, my next relationship is going to be my last. You don't, I mean, hey, if you want to, you know, if you want to sign on the dotted line and just do it, that's on you. But like, you never know that, right? Sometimes you may need to, like that person may need you to just pour into them, right? They just might need a season to where they're not strong enough or they're not comfortable in who they are, and you just gotta pour into them, right? Don't take it personal. That may not be your forever person, but just pour into them, right? And that goes in like with everything. You kind of gotta have that perspective of everything is seasonal, and maximize the season.
I love that. I want to take a moment to answer this question because I think it's a good question. I'm gonna put it on this. How can we as a to serve God?
How can we as a generation make it cool to serve God? You want to take it now? Pick back off it.
So,
all right.
For me, I think that it starts with ourselves. It starts with a self. First of all, like for me, me. It starts with self-reflection and realizing that I am not perfect. I will not show up perfect. I will not be perfect. There will be days that I'm stronger than others. There will be days where my tank is, or my cup is full, and there will be other days where my cup is like, ain't no water. But one of the things that I have found is that I don't try to make it cool serving God. I just serve God, you know? I don't think that there is a way to make it cool. I mean, everyone has their own personality, their own swag. Everyone kind of delivers their revelations from God in their own unique ways. But I think the best way, I think the most important thing, if I'm gonna stick to the question of how do we make it cool, is to just be authentic with each other and be real and allow our hearts to connect with one another. Because when we connect, that's community, and that's a reflection of God, in the kingdom of God. So how do we make it cool to serve God? Just be real with ourselves, be real with each other, be kind to one another, and just be open and be, authentic. That's what I.
Yeah, I agree. That was actually part of my answer, right? Like, I think in order to make it cool to kind of serve God, be you. Be exactly who He created you to be, right? If you quirky and nerdy and like anime, then do that and be great at it and be cool with, like, just be you, right? And if you like football, if you like the kicks and the swag, and you like this, if you a girl, you like dressing up and having your hair, be you, right? That's how you make it cool, to be authentically you, and then to say, this is how I live my life, right? Because I think, like, when people have conversations with me, like, I'm me, right? And this who you gonna get, right? I'm not changing, I'm not switching. Either you gonna love me or you're not. And it's cool with me because I understand I ain't for everybody or whatever, right? But, like, you gotta be who God created you to be, right? And I don't say that to say, because we could go all left with that one, right? But just in terms of, like, all the quirks and the creativity and the things, the design, and everything, you gotta do it. Right, and as you do it, as you learn and as you grow, you're gonna start making it look cool, right? You're gonna start making it look cool, because one thing people can respect is, like, the boldness, right? You gotta be bold with it, right? Don't be. I don't care if you're in football, basketball, cheerleading, acting, model, whatever you is. If you're doing it, you're like, oh man, no, should I go this? Should I go that? Or man, should I say something or should I speak up? Hey, I don't care what you believe in. I don't care if it's Buddha, this, Joseph Smith. I don't care if you believe in these politics or that. You're gonna get that out of me, right? So if you don't want me to be me in those environments,
I know that's
you might as well not even invite me, right? Because when I get there, we're gonna have those conversations, right? If they, I'm not about to beat nobody inside the head, but if we're gonna have those conversations, I'm not backing down. Right, so just make sure you ready, because that same tenacity and energy that you keep in, I'm 10 times stronger, because I know this
I'm
is
the
true.
same way. I tell people all the time, like, I have to find myself being like, now I know I done brought God up about 4 times in this conversation. However, the 5th time, what do you think about it? I just feel like I agree with you, Chris. I really do. I had a girlfriend of mine yesterday. She was like, no matter what you do, you always got to be yourself. And just like you said, how God created you to be, that's exactly who you're supposed to be. You ain't supposed to be nobody else. That's it. That's
right.
Yes.
Now, grow, change, elevate, sharpen your skills, right? If you're not, quote unquote, like, for example, if you're not good at public speaking, that don't mean you just don't speak and just be like an introvert and don't do nothing. No, learn that skill, right? Get better. But those quirky things, those, like, jokes that maybe not, like, everybody might not get, that's exactly who you need to be on stage, or when you public speaking, or when you're talking to the class. be that. Just learn the skills to do it at a bigger and
Absolutely.
better
Someone
way.
asks, how do you make others see God's ways instead of the worldly ways when it comes to relationships, which may be called not cool or the norm anymore?
Okay. Read it one more time.
How
Just so I
do
can
you
get it.
make others see God's ways instead of worldly ways when it comes to relationships, which may be called not cool or the norm anymore?
Okay. That's a fair question. That's an honest question. I think there's a couple different ways to do that, right? And I'm not saying conform to culture or nothing like that, right? And I guess it goes into the whole making it cool thing. I think you have to, one, be you, right? But two, I think sometimes as Christians, now don't get me wrong, there's some people, there's a good bit actually out there that's like showing that, right? Or what's it like to be in a Christian relationship? What's it like to have certain boundaries to do this? I think you have to make it, how do I say it? I want to say like make it look cool, but like you gotta, I think standing firm, right? And then still like being excellent in the other areas, right? Because if I'm being honest, and I think you can, depending on your experiences, you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. Like, usually when you be like, oh man, that's a good Christian woman, or that's a good Christian man, and I think they're on fire for God, but sometimes like they don't have the look, right? Or they don't know how to dress, or their body not on point, or they this, or they that. So yes, they on fire here, but all these, it's like they're not even like worried about it, right? And that's including relationships, right? Yeah, you're on fire for God, but you're not emotionally intelligent. You don't know how to serve. You don't know how to cook. You don't know how to like pour into somebody. I don't mean just spiritually. I mean like motivate them to work out, or motivate them to, okay, baby, you gotta learn this skill. Like you gotta get better at this. Or you ever thought about doing your business like this? Or what about this? Like you can't, all you got is the spiritual thing, right? Which is great, don't get me wrong, but if I'm just looking for a woman that got spirit, well, I can pick a billion of them, right? Why does that woman need to be joined? Why do I need to make her my wife to do life with, right? And I think, you make it more attractive for other people when you're doing all those things, right? When you're not just, for example, when you're not just the Denzel, the best actor ever, but you also live your life in a certain way to be like, dang, okay, he's doing this and doing this, right? He's making it come together, right? Because it's one thing to have one aspect, right? Okay, you're crazy talented, you're this, but you ain't got no spiritual sense whatsoever, right? Well, all right, there's only so much you can do with that. Or you got the spiritual sense, right? On 10, right? But you lacking in all these other areas, right? So the goal is, man, let's do both, right? That's why that training period is so important, because you got to be able to do both. Think of it like this. King David, right? No, scratch that. Joseph, right? I have to believe in those seasons where he was, not in second command, and he was going through the dungeon and serving Potiphar, he had to be developing those things. He had to be, right? He had to know, okay, this is how I do, this is how you manage money, this is how you work on this is how you approach these people versus approaching these people. This is how you rule. Oh no, I don't want to rule like that. I gotta be able to look like this. He was learning all that through that time, to where when he does become second command, it's like, man, this dude, that's him. Like, that's it. To where not only he saved his people, but even Egyptians was like, nah, man, that's that guy. Like, that's that dude, right? So I think you got to be able to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that, guys, Chris said but didn't say is that all of those things that he just talked about is outlined in the Word of God. Like, if you really, the way to know how to do relationships in a godly way and not a worldly way is to seek the instructions from the source. Like, it literally tells men how you should be as a man, and what your purpose is as a man and what your responsibilities are as a man. It tells the same to women. And then it just tells all of us in general who to be around, who not to be around, what to do, what not to do. It's all there. It's all there. Like, it's all there. So if you are trying to figure out, you know, how to have a godly relationship, go to the source. And honestly, like, in my personal experience, I have done relationships without going to the source, like having an idea, you know, just kind of knowing but ignoring, not being obedient. That's what it's always just been, a lack of obedience. And so yeah, it sounds easier than done. Yes, it does, because it's not always easy to be obedient, you know, because it goes back to the whole thing of feelings, like, but this is what my flesh wants. And let me just ignore this for now, because maybe it'll get better over time, or maybe something will change, but we cannot meet people. We cannot.
I know exactly.
We cannot meet, like I told my sister today, I said, God will not bring a person, a partner, that, say for instance, someone is not does not love themselves properly, or does not have self-respect, or, you know, God may bring you a person who can love you and who can help you in building that self-respect for yourself, but will you even be able to recognize it? Because it's not something that you're cultivating on your own. So when you're looking for a godly relationship, you want to seek someone who is cultivating a godly relationship between them and God. And then the two of you come together. You don't have to try to figure out how to have a godly relationship versus a worldly one, because neither of you came into it with that mindset in the first place. So that's how you do it. Right. That's what I think.
That's simple, right?
And you can get it all in the Bible, y'all. It's all there. I know it seemed like the Bible is so daunting and boring and intimidating, but it's actually very juicy. So y'all should go check it out. Like, it's a lot of stuff in there.
It's extremely. It's a lot.
And it's so relatable. It's like, I think that's why it's called the living word, because like, it's written so long ago, but it's still so like relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially when God, like the Spirit, kind of gives you revelation of, like, you know, taking out the language, to, so to speak, of like the, you know, this and that and the these and all that stuff. Right when you kind of take it out and then start relating it to, like, you know, the 21st century, like, dang, that's exactly what that is. And you'd be like, that makes sense. And you'd be like, dang, I'm still struggling with that. Like, it hits, right? And you'd be like, okay, God, I see, right? That's why, like, if you just read the word, and you just reading it, right, then it's just words on the page, right? Until that Holy Spirit, like, makes it come alive in your life, and you start experiencing it, then you like, wow.
It's always so, like, okay. It hits different. It hits different when it's really like, yeah, it hits different. So since we talking about, you know, just like, I was just talking about like we talked about moving on feelings and flesh and all these things. Has there ever been a time where you knew you needed to wait, but you decided to just do what you wanted to do anyway? And what happened?
Yes and no, right? So, like, I guess just because I've been kind of on this path for like a long time, I've kind of been, the Spirit's been very good at like letting me know, hey, don't do this. I'm telling you, don't do this. And then I've always been, all right, I want to do it, but all right, whatever. And I kind of always like listen for the most part, right? I could think like a few times, and like these are no like drastic things, but it allowed me to kind of teach a lesson in the season I was in, right? So for example, like football, right? There was a time before one of my years, from my junior year, I think, he was like, all right, he told me something. Hey, Chris, like, you gonna get, actually, this is a good example, actually. He told me, he was like, Chris, like, you're going to have like 8-9 picks this year, right? You're going to be All-American. And for me, like, this before the season, for me, I was hyped. Now, mind you, I ain't never like been that guy yet, right? So I was like, bet, cool, like, we about to get it. Then we're going to do that. Then we're going to get to the league and the X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. My brain started rolling, right? So he told me this, and my dumb behind, right, haven't learned the lesson, I start yapping, right? Oh, yeah, man, telling my teammates, telling people, man, I'm about to have like almost 10 picks. I'm about to do this. I'm about to be All-American, man. Just yapping, right? Talking at the mouth, right? So, like, now looking back on it, like, I really see what he was trying to teach me. Like, sometimes, like, when God gives you a word, man, you got to protect it, right? Because just because God gave it to you, that doesn't mean, like, the devil knows. The devil's not all-knowing. The devil doesn't know it if he just gave it to you, right? Sometimes, right, you got to protect it. You got to be like, no, I ain't telling nobody, right? Like, be quiet, keep working, right? And do what you got to do, right? Now, sometimes he'll tell you to, you know, ask for confirmation of certain people. And like I said, it just depends on what season, right? But he told me, like, he didn't tell me, but obviously he told me, like, after the fact, shut up, just keep working. But me blabbing it, saying it, getting cocky and doing all that stuff, turns out, tell me where I get 4 picks, but I drop like 5. Like, when I mean drop, I don't mean like, oh, you like literally dropped it. It touched both of my hands and dropped. So I would have literally had like 8-9 picks, and my teammates can vouch for you. I would have had like 8-9 picks my junior year and been an All-American easily. But I dropped 4 or 5. I got 4, and it was a good season. Don't get me wrong. I had a great, amazing season, right? But I honestly believe just because, like, I wasn't patient, I didn't wait, I didn't learn those lessons, right? And just trust that, okay, this is what he said, we're gonna just roll with it, right? That it just didn't formulate how, like, he initially wanted it to, right? And I know that's just something small. I mean, it's a football game, right? It's something small.
But it was big for you,
and it taught me the lesson of, like, sometimes, bro, right? You know, sometimes, bro, like, you gotta wait, and not just wait. You gotta be quiet and wait. Like, sometimes you gotta protect it, and just trust that, man. If God's gonna do it, if He says He's gonna do it, He's gonna do it.
I know that's right.
But so, like I said, even since then, I've kind of learned that lesson to be like, all right, unless you tell me to say it, right, or put it out there, or put it on social media. Yeah, we just
no more announcements. Got it.
We just gonna shut up about it and just wait. No more. Right. Unless he says, like, because even with, like, a lot of my content, like, he'll tell me, all right, do that, or say this, or you're good, do this, put that out, X, Y, and Z. Yeah, even with the, if you're seeing this, you needed this. Part of me wanted to, like, wait until I kind of blew up a little more to start putting those out. But he was like, nah, it's time, put it out. All right, so you gotta get that ear for the Holy Spirit. You gotta know when to like, listen to that whisper, and when to, like, really listen to that whisper.
How do you
like, nah,
hear from God?
I'm not moving. Like, I'm just, all right, cool. Ooh. A lot of different ways, if I'm being honest. God, one, visions and dreams. He definitely works. He definitely tells me a whole lot through that. Through, like, my creativity, right? Through the word, through music, through conversations like this. Like, it's so weird how it happens sometimes. And I know it, like, I understand, if nobody's ever experienced like this, I understand how it can be hard to kind of understand. But like when I tell you God, like, gives me stuff, like, in the moment, like, I'll be talking about something, I'll be having an idea, and he'll be like, this. And I recognize it because I'm like, okay, that ain't for me. Right? Like, I know just from living, I know what it is when I have an idea, and I know what it is when he gave it to me. And it's completely different. So, like, he speaks to me through so many different ways, right? And if I'm being honest, I know what it feels like to kind of be away from him, right? And not to be able to hear it, right? And I know what it is to be like, when I'm right next to it, I know it exactly. Like, for example, the bar exam, right? Studying for the bar exam, you can ask anybody, is a tough 3-4 months, right? But he gave me a word. He was like, just meet me there, right? Prayed every morning, every night, studied, worked out. I was laser focused. He said, just meet me there. When I tell you I got in that seat, in that room, and it felt like I was cheating, like the spirit was just telling me, say this, say this, say this, say this, keep talking, do that, do that. And it came so, if anybody's watching this in law school, don't take it to heart. But when I tell you this exam was so easy for me, it was crazy. Like, it felt like I was cheating because the spirit was just like, he was just telling me everything to say. So I know what it is like when you're in a posture, when you're in a kind of a mode, right? To where it's like you hear everything he says and you just flowing. It really feels like you're not even there. Like he's just moving through you. And it's an amazing feeling, right? It's an amazing feeling. So he speaks to me through a bunch of different ways. But you know, everybody's different, right? And I think you have to be very open to allow God to speak to you how he is, right? Some people it's through prophetic words, some people it's through a vision, some people it's that guy across the street, right? Like you never know, but you kind of have to always be open to it.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah. I agree. I hear from God very much in the same way. It just kind of comes on me, and it's things that are like, okay, that wasn't my thought. Like it's things that, also through dreams for me. And then oddly enough, I see, like I'll be thinking about something, or I'll be praying about something, and I'll be driving, or I'll be like walking into a store, or I'll be like tying my shoe, and it'd be the most random, like either confirmations or like answers. It'll be like signage, so it's having the ear, but also keeping your eyes open too, because God gives us answers sometimes, not through us just hearing or seeing, but by an action that we have to take, and what we are feeling while we are in the movement of that action. And a lot of times that action is like an action where you're having to serve someone. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like recently I had this experience. I was running late to where I had to be. And I saw someone who needed help, like, and I don't really want to go into it, because I told God that it's one of those things of like, it's not about if people know about this, you know. But I saw someone that needed help, and I helped, right? And during that process, that whole morning, like before that, I was just like so kind of like frazzled, and not frazzled, but just kind of like frustrated, and just like kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you know? And then like, it was like the perfect weather that day. And what I was helping them do, we happened to be outside. And I remember saying to her, I said, it could be much worse. It could be raining. We are in perfect weather. Like, look at the weather God gave us today while we doing this. And it's just stuff like that, where it's like, where that morning I was just like really complaining to God about what wasn't present, or what I wanted to happen, or what is not moving fast enough. And it was like God was teaching me a lesson. Number one, Samantha, it could be, you're blessed. It could be worse. And number two, where you think you need to be is not where you need to be. Because if you were there, you wouldn't be here helping this person that I sent you to speak life into, and to help in this moment. So stop trying to tell me where you need to be, and just let me place you. And since that was like last week, and I done been in check ever since, because I'm like, okay, like, you know, and that's happening more frequently for me. Like right now I'm in this place where I'm about to make a kind of a scary decision like in my life, And but I know that God told me to do it. And so it's that thing, you know? So it's just that thing of like, let me not try to dictate how I'm going to feel about it. Let me not try to allow my fear to rule me, my emotions, my feelings, all these things. And let me just trust God, because he's shown over and over and over again, where I put you, I've made provision for you before I put you there. What room I send you into, I've already orchestrated that room to work in your favor. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, like anywhere I'm sending you. Now, where you go by yourself, that's on you.
That's on you.
Because I'm talking to you. So, but are you listening? But where I send you, provision is there. And so, I've been having to really listen.
You know what I love about that story and just that process? Like, it goes back to the training. When you listen and when you're obedient to those small voices of just, hey, give that person X amount or go help that person. When you listen and obedient in those moments, it's building up your faith to where when he does tell you those big things about making a drastic change in your life, you know, because you've done those small things, even if it's just, hey, give that person $100 or do this or go serve that person or go to this event. You've been obedient over those little things. So when he tells you to do the big thing, it's like, okay, I built up that trust in him, right? And it only comes through obedience. Now, imagine if you would have said no to all of those small little things. Now when he's telling you to do this big thing, you worrying. You're like, man, I don't know if it's from God or from the devil. I don't know. Is it me? Is it? And you end up so hesitating that you miss the opportunity because you're not even moving, right? You just standing still and you're like, man, I don't want to mess that up, so I'm just not going to do nothing, right? And he's like, no, I've been trying to teach you, move on me, move on me, move on me. So when big things come, you can move. You be like, I know your voice. I know that's you. Let's get it. Do I know all the particulars? No. Am I scared? Yes, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
It's above my the particulars ain't got that's above my pay grade. Like the particulars belong to God. And something that I've had to recently start doing is really just like laying everything at his feet. Like, not just saying that I'm laying it at his feet, but for real, like allowing my heart to openly just be like, I'm just going to lay this at your feet because I don't know the particulars. And to me, I don't see how this is going to work. But you do. So
it don't make sense.
Here's my heart. You know? Yeah. We have some questions, but they aren't necessarily about this conversation. Well, one of the questions is, let me just pin it. Do you think you can stop loving someone? I told you it didn't have anything to do with the conversation.
I'm assuming they're just talking about in like a romantic sense. Like I think to a certain extent, like obviously through brothers and sisters in Christ, no, you shouldn't. But yes, I think you can, right? I think you can train yourself to I don't want to say detach, but kind of like distance yourself from somebody. Now you can still have love for them, right? But if it just didn't work, if they had, it just wasn't working, right? If it's not the person you meant to be, you can love them from a distance. I think it's possible. I think you have to go through a process to do that, right? You can't still be hanging out with them, talking to them 24/7, doing all these things, because then you're just making it harder and harder and harder for yourself. You kind of got to create distance and allow yourself to kind of get that room to not necessarily stop loving them, but to kind of move on to what God does have for you, right? Because like I said, everything is seasonal, even relationships are seasonal. But if you can't let go of what you had or what was, you can never walk into what is and what God has for you. right? So you got to
Yeah,
keep
and I
that in
think
perspective.
maybe that question, I could be totally wrong, but if that question came up because of the context of what we're talking about, a lot of times people may feel like if I stop loving someone, or if I'm supposed to, because we were talking about, I said earlier how I used to think people were in my assignment, right? Sometimes people can feel like if I stop loving someone, then that's a reflection or a poor reflection of what I'm supposed to do, because I'm supposed to love people, right? But when the Bible tells us to be equally yoked, and that is like in every way. And so I think that not necessarily that you stop loving someone, you don't stop loving people. I think that is just that you love God more. You know, like you love God more to make a decision to be more aligned with who God is and what God has told you is best for you. And again, the best way that you can line it up and see is to just go to the source.
Right.
Yeah,
And you can love somebody and
totally,
not be with them.
totally.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's possible, right? To be honest, I think to a certain extent, everybody's going to have that
Absolutely,
experience at
yeah.
some point in their life.
I think so too. Well, I've taken up a whole hour of your time and of everyone else's. That's all the
That's all the questions?
that I'm going that I'm
Oh,
no,
okay.
those are all the ones that
I thought you had like the whole point. Oh, okay, gotcha.
not that no question. Y'all, this conversation is a very intentional conversation. So I'm not going to address questions that are just not in alignment with this conversation.
We might have to do like another Q&A on the next one.
Does anyone have any questions for Chris before we go?
About the topic?
Right, about this. Let's keep the topic at the top of our minds. Yeah, so I don't see anything coming in, but I appreciate your time, Chris. This has been such a lovely conversation. You are so inspiring, and it is so refreshing to see a man of God walking as a man of God. You know, and young. You know what I mean? Like that's we yes, the kingdom is proud. So
no, I really appreciate that. I mean, I think, you know, you only could, you know, you can't really see yourself how people see you a lot of times, right? So I'm glad, like, for the people that been rocking with me and really know me and have conversations with me, like, that's where they're getting from me, right? They're like, nah, man, like, this a man that's trying to do it as best as he can, right? Because I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm just, you know, trying to make it look cool, I guess you can say. But nah, like, I really appreciate you. Thank you for, you know, inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share this platform with you, to have some, you know, great conversations. Again,
yes,
we're going to have to do a part 2. Because I love having conversations like this. It's always good. And I think a lot of people get some value from it. So
I agree. Someone earlier was trying to join like the video. I think it was the same. I think you said that you knew them. It was the same person that asked the first question. So that would have been really cool.
Yeah,
City and state. Is that for me or Chris? I tell people I'm on planet Earth. So
you be bouncing around.
I'm just on Earth. But yeah. Okay, Chris. Well, I won't keep you too much longer. Again, thank you so much for being with me. We will have to do a part 2, and yeah.
Make sure you.
I'm gonna save it as long as Instagram let me save it, and I'm gonna put it on my page. All right.
Bet. Well, hey, you already know. Go check it out. Go share this with a couple people, man. Hope it kind of, you know, add some value to your life, gave you a different perspective.
I was gonna ask you. Yes, please pray, please.
Yeah. God, we just come to you today and say thank you, God. Thank you, God, for another day, another opportunity just to become the men and women that you've designed us to be. God, we thank you for entrusting us with these platforms. We pray that we just continue to glorify you as best as we can and be who you called us to be, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, in all those aspects. God, in Matthew 18:19, you said, where two or more touch and agree on anything in this earth, that it shall be done. So right now, we just touch and pray that our platforms continue to bless people, change lives, affect change, uplift and encourage people to stand firm in who you are and who you created them to be. So I thank you for my sister right now. I know she's praying for some things. I pray you continue to encourage her and protect her from the top of her head to the soles of her feet. Give her the tenacity to go out and chase those dreams that you place in those hearts. Her name is already moving in rooms that you already have placed and prepared for her, God. So I just say thank you for her. Thank you for everything she's doing. Continue to bless her and bless her family, her friends. And we thank you. We give you all the praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much, Chris.
No problem.
Until next time, brother. Okay. Bye.
All right.